Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's a bit of a slower week in between album bombs. Shame it's not good. And it's Billboard BREAKDOwn.
I don't remember.
This is always the week I usually find interesting post-album bomb, when it doesn't really fade at all. And while I wouldn't call this precisely a slowdown, much as I would have appreciated this in the middle of one of my most insane months of this year, it is a bit of a breather, especially with Olivia Rodrigo likely to crash through next week with a big album bomb of her own. So consider this week a bit of a holdover, where I would not place much faith in anything here lasting all that long. We'll have to see. Honestly, wouldn't be all that surprised if a lot of bad stuff leaves. But in the meantime, our top 10, where as I predicted last week, we have a new number 1, Paint the Town Red by Doja Cat. Let's make this clear, it's winning on radio margins, because while the streaming and the sales are really good, the aggressive airplay push is what got it the edge, at least for this week, especially over I Remember Everything by Zach Bryan featuring Casey Musgraves, pushed back to number 2, which has precisely 0 radio, and it's here on massive streaming and just enough sales to keep up. You know, imagine if Music Row bothered to give Zach Bryan or Casey Musgraves the slightest time of day. They could have really had something here. All I'm saying. Anyway, none of this is good timing for Fast Car by Luke Combs, now stranded at number 3. Streaming is still remarkably good, and it's at the very top on the radio, but it's also very clearly peaked, and I don't expect it to make any sort of desperate run unless the label throws out a discount, not for next week's chart, but probably for the week after that. And even then, I'd say it's a roll of the dice. What might have a slightly better chance is Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift up to number 4, which is also nearly out of radio momentum, but might just have a little bit of gas left in the tank thanks to the streaming and the Swiftie fanbase. It's certainly possible. Now all this overrides Last Night by Morgan Wallen at number 5, which is only not losing faster because it had a pretty good streaming week. The radio is dumping this really fast. But that opens up a door for Dance the Night by Dua Lipa up to number 6, which still has a very tangible radio push, even as streaming feels a lot slower to get on board. I mean, it's not really the case for Snooze by SZA at number 7, which hit a very sharp radio peak this week, but the streaming backed it up just enough to hold up over Fuck You Mean by Gunna at number 8, which is finally getting radio traction to hold around streaming that's frankly having more longevity than I personally expected. But as expected, the big story here is Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo at number 9. With the album bomb coming, there is a chance this goes to number 1, although I'll argue it's going to be played on the streaming margins. She's already got robust radio in place. It could very easily happen. We'll have to see. Finally, Calm Down by Rema and Selena Gomez is at number 10. All it really has is radio. That's falling away. I don't have high expectations there. Now this takes us neatly to the losers and dropouts, where to my shock, in the latter category, we actually have some pretty big ones, all having clinched their year-end list spots for 2023. 1% by Grupo Frontera and Bad Bunny, Chemical by Post Malone, and Princess Diana by Ice Spice and Nicki Minaj. Now as for the losers, well, as expected, the majority are from Zach Bryan, and we'll get to those. But I'm also kind of intrigued in how Single Soon by Selena Gomez just toppled off the debut down to 39, or how quickly the losses for Call Your Friends by Rod Wave piled up to 97, or Your Heart or Mine by John Party just got yanked from Nashville radio to 98, or S91 by Karol G at 100. But yes, the Zach Bryan drops, they are as follows: Spotless with the Lumineers at 35, East Side of Sorrow at 40, Fear and Fridays at 48, El Dorado at 49, Ticking at 52, Summertime's Close at 53, Overtime at 55, Smaller Acts at 63, Holy Roller with Sierra Farrell at 69, Jake's Piano, Long Island at 78, Tradesman at 82, and Oklahoman Sun at 88. Now for the returns and gains, of which there are less of both than you might expect. In the former group, El Amor de Su Vida by Grupo Frontera and Grupo Firm clawed back to 93, but the bigger story is the sad return of Margaritaville by the late Jimmy Buffett to 38 for one last brief posthumous run. Rarely has there been an artist to find so much iconic pathos and Vacation, rest in power. Now on for the gains, of which there's not really a pattern that I can distinguish. This is very much all over the place, outside of how they're concentrated more in the midsection of the Hot 100. The one song that didn't really lose last week that saw a boost was La La by Mike Towers, but in terms of Latin music, Kiona by by Karol G and Peso Pluma saw a nice bump to 31. Country and folk actually looked a bit more promising, with Dial Drunk by Noah Kahan and Post Malone up to 28. Watermelon Moonshine by Lainey Wilson's at 33. And even In Your Love by Tyler Childers up to 65. But it also came with Bury Me in Georgia by Kane Brown at 36. And Thinking About Me by Morgan Wallen at 19. And Try That in a Small Town by Jason Aldean at 30. Then we got the rest that I can't really explain that well. Well, okay, Antihero by Taylor Swift's at 20. It's just a behemoth that's lasted the entire year. And I Know by Travis Scott hit the crossover streaming market, I guess, at 34. And Daylight by David Kushner at 42. And What It Is Block Boy by Doechii and Kodak Black at 41, because maybe just enough radio, kind of underwhelming explanations, but hell, what can you do, right? Anyway, we only have 6 new arrivals this week, and we are gonna have to start with a little bit of a curveball here. Number 84, Keep Going Up by Timbaland, Nelly Furtado, and Justin Timberlake.
I keep going, I keep going, I keep going up.
You know, after I did my video essay on Justin Timberlake on my main channel, I was actually really excited to hear about this reunion collab. All 3 of them made some impressive music together in the mid-2000s. Maybe some of the nostalgia would stick around. And then it wasn't just that the buzz was underwhelmed or more negative, it just evaporated before I even got a chance to hear the song. And now having heard it, yeah, I get why. It's pretty easy to categorize too. This is a track that's trying to coast on its laurels, tell us rather than show us that they still have it. I mean, the ego is still here, but Timberlake and Furtado just do not have any edge or swagger this time. This is gonna sound weird coming from me, but they sound way too earnest to sell anything all that cool, and the production does them no favors. The synths are painfully weedy, especially around the hook, squeaky across a mix where even if the percussion is more developed, and outside of a few scattered ad-libs, I think Timbaland's just a non-presence. Again, this feels like it's running on name recognition over any actual potency to it, and as someone who really did want to root for this, yeah, even with nostalgia, I'm gonna call it very big disappointment here. Number 67, SkeeYee by Sexyy Red.
Don't fuck with me, then I'ma have 'em stuck. Bitch looking bad and got a stupid butt. Jewelry on your wrist, fucking hold it up.
It feels like Sexyy Red is wound up in a lot of discourse for everything except her music. Yeah, her stuff is filthy and horny. Why is any self-regarding fan of hip-hop pearl clutching here? You're embarrassing yourselves. No, if I have issues with Sexyy Red, it's because I don't think she's especially a good rapper. She only barely stays on beat, her flow is clunky, and often has the feel where she's trying to shove in too many words to finish a punchline, provided we get them, and the flexing content is just not clever or funny. Hell, with this song, I don't even think it's all that provocative outside of maybe wanting to get fucked in the ass on the first verse. I guess if I'm going to credit anyone here, it's probably Tay Keith for a really good beat with the piano line and the sharper percussion and the bells. And yeah, I guess shouting SkeeYee all over the song is modestly catchy. But outside of that, compared to Doechii or Flo Milli or Glorilla or even Ice Spice doing her dead-eyed drill flows, I just don't really hear what makes Sexyy Red that special on the mic. The beat's gonna save the song. Even then, not saying much. Number 61, Que Onda by Calle 24, Chino Pacas, and Fuerza Regida. Okay, look, I've gotten behind some regional Mexican music in the past year, but when I saw the lineup behind this, I had rock bottom expectations. And yeah, it turns out that was smart because wow, just on a sonic level, I don't like this. What is it with the bass clicking being so accentuated in the mix that it overpowers all these painfully weedy acoustics and the farty horns? And this is a song that actually appears to have a production budget, given how much they slapped the reverb onto the vocals. There's no excuse for this. Couple that with how the track is trying to go into explicit detail, talking this girl into cheating on her partner, and none of these guys have much in the way of charisma, even outside of a bad translation, and the fact that there's no real tangible hook to speak of, yeah, no, this isn't good at all. I don't even know why I'm even disappointed. Next. Number 56, Come See Me by Rod Wave.
Me to let it burn. I used to see it, call my phone and get butterflies. These days my stomach turn.
You know, I don't even know why I even expect Rod Wave to develop song structure beyond maybe one extended verse and a hook. I wish he would. I think he's got the melodic instincts to do so well, but it's left so many of even his best songs feeling fragmented. It's frustrating, and I don't think it really helps this one either, which leans a lot more on the watery pianos and the vocal snippets as Rod Wave goes off about an old love where he's got "not over it" written all over the song, and it's dragging him into some really dark places. It's not quite a guilt trip set towards this girl, and you know, I get going on the bender post-breakup, but there's this sourness that pushes it very close to guilt trip territory. I will say that. It makes the song a lot harder to like. So yeah, can't say I'm a fan of this at all here either. Next, number 46, Demons by Doja Cat.
Now that my pockets full, how my demons look.
I know I'm not the only one who hasn't really bought into all of Doja Cat's provocation in this album cycle, though for me it's got way less to do with any visuals and more with how the music has just not been able to match that same intensity. So when I saw a song called Demons, shit, I learned this lesson with Imagine Dragons a decade ago. That's no guarantee this is going to have any sort of edge, but I'll give her this. The ascending melody is that really filthy beat that almost seems to remind me of Rage production. It's got more bite than a lot of the instrumentals she's used, but it's also like a lot of Rage for me. I don't think it's menacing. Sloppy mixing where said beat clips the mix and her vocals does not scare me, and neither do all the defensive threats where once again Doja Cat's trying to flex on a bunch of social media haters, and it feels neither that creative nor that interesting, especially given how disinterested she sounds on the verses. So sure, call it a step in the right direction, I'll give her that. I just have no desire to revisit this. And finally, number 23, Last Time I Saw You by Nicki Minaj.
I wish I didn't waste precious time tonight when I called you.
Man, I wish I wasn't relying on Nicki Minaj in 2023 to have a strong enough track to carry this week, but that's where we are, because even if I found more to like from Nicki the past couple of years, she's also been wildly uneven in the service of this mysterious album rollout for Pink Friday 2. So let me say this. It's not a great song by any means. It's at least workable. The electric guitar loop behind the sharper percussion and the more developed bass line, Nicki's crooning over the hook and the bridge with only one full rap verse, and Nicki's a decent singer, where she describes a relationship where she did not pay it enough attention, she was a little bit neglectful, and now she's wistful about what she's actually lost, where she did not put in the effort and what might have been. Honestly, I've never really fully bought into Nicki Minaj's more emotive side. It feels a little bit too guarded for its own good on many occasions. But honestly, while the details still feel scant, there's enough here to make this work, even if the song as a whole doesn't feel all that special. It's decent, for sure. Probably will work best for Nicki Minaj fans who are a lot more invested in her emotional journey, aka the Barbs. But you know what, if not, take it or leave it, I guess. That being said, I am giving her the best of the week. Nicki's a better rapper than Sexyy Red. She's got more to say, and I think the production holds up here. But the worst is easily going to Onda by Calle 24, Chino, Pacas, and Fuerza, Regida. Another regional Mexican track where it seems to press every single button on what I do not like within this genre. There is stuff I like, this is not it. Thankfully, things will likely get more interesting next week with Olivia Rodrigo coming in force, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. I'll see you next time.